You have to take a step back and say, although it makes sense, that's only half of what really took place.
But we have seen over the last 20 years a constriction on who has the right to use that right. We have seen it through voter ID laws. You can't get on the rolls, and if you get on the rolls, you can't stay. You may not be able to cast your ballot because they close your precinct or they change the rules. That's rigging the game.
Okay, so what's up, family? Welcome back to Pointing Out Politicians. First up, thanks for taking the time to stop in and take a listen to this video. We got something very important I want to talk about. Something that you don't hear being discussed in the media. And you don't hear being discussed by politicians on the left or the right. And this issue kind of supersedes a political party per se. I think it's a little more deep than that. But thanks for stopping and taking the time to listen to this video. Could have been anywhere, but you decided to spend a couple minutes with me. I'll try to be a bit brief. What I want to talk about is an article that I read and a thought that came to my mind based upon the elections, the election results, more specifically what took place in Georgia. And we hear a lot about voter ID laws and whether or not you should be required to identify yourself when you vote. I think it should be just standard practice. I think if you have to have an ID to drive a vehicle, you have to have an ID to do most of the things that an adult does here in the United States. You should be required to have an ID in order to vote. I don't think it's racist. I don't think it marginalizes anybody in the community. I think it just makes common sense. But what happened in Georgia, we hear a lot about what took place shortly after the election regarding the need to have voter ID. But that in itself, that conversation, you have to take a step back and say, although it makes sense, that's only half of what really took place. And the other half of that has been completely ignored. I'm going to read a little bit from an article that kind of triggered this thought process. I'm going to bring up 4 points of the election. And then what I want to talk about is something that's not mentioned anywhere. And although these 4 points are very important. So bear with me as I go through this. And this is coming directly from the article. There'll be a link in the description box so you can go check it out yourself. Do your fact finding and whatnot from that point. But let's take a look at what it said. Point 1, regarding Fulton County, Georgia, during the election, an audit was conducted, and here's what was found. Point 1, more than 100 batches of absentee ballots, each containing approximately 100 or more ballots, were assigned tracking numbers before being sent to one of the 5 absentee vote counting machines in Fulton County, but are not subsequently recorded in the handwritten logs showing which batches were scanned and counted, raising concerns that the ballots may be missing. Okay, point 1, there could be ballots missing. Point 2, more than 2 dozen batches of absentee ballots were identified as having been double scanned on the tally sheets. Point 2, double scanned ballots. We've seen video footage of what we thought could be taking place. Neither here nor there. Point number 3, 5 sequential batches of absentee votes each appeared with the exact same vote count of 392 for Biden, 96 for President Donald Trump, and 3 for Libertarian Joe Jorgensen. A count that state officials admitted was a statistical impossibility. 5 sequential batches. Now, if we take that number from point 1, 100 or more ballots per batch, 5 sequential ballots. It'd be at least 500 ballots. Each appeared the exact same vote count. So 5 times in a row, 5 batches in a row had the exact same vote count. That's point 3. Point 4, many control sheets for absentee ballot batches counted during the state's audit did not check a box indicating the ballot came from a secure container, raising the possibility that ballots were stored insecurely or that multiple batches of ballots were sealed in a single container. Point 4, multiple batches of ballots sealed in a single container. 4 important points. 4 very important points. So the question in regards to that is, why now? Several months after the election. As of now, it's June, and we're looking back at January. Why would it take so long for this information to be released to the public? Why did it take so long for an audit to take place? Why didn't it happen automatically once there were discrepancies noted in the first place? But here's the point, and here's what's most important about this, what I gather. If you look at those 4 points, ballots being scanned multiple times, tracking numbers missing ballots, all that good stuff, which of those 4 points has anything to do with voter ID? Think about that for a second. None of these points has anything to do with a person who shouldn't have voted voting. On the surface, that seems like a really great thing to focus your attention on, but in reality, it wasn't the voters, it was the people who were running the election. That's where the bulk of the problem is. You see, I can take hundreds of illegal voters, or unregistered voters, or people who have no business voting. They could be from a foreign country. They could be illegal aliens. All the things that we hear about in the news right now. I could take hundreds of them, thousands of them, line them up, and allow them to vote, and the outcome would still not be what we see here. Those votes should not come up missing, even though they're not authorized. And as far as statistic impossibilities go, there's no way in the world that those numbers would be repeated over and over again. So regardless of what political party you ascribe to, doesn't it seem a bit odd to you that we have politicians who, one, won't address the fact that the people who ran the election should be scrutinized much more? Maybe the rules for selecting these people and putting these people in positions should be looked at. And maybe that was the true F word. Maybe that's where the F word occurred. Inside rather than outside. Meanwhile, everyone's attention is focused externally. And nobody's looking at the internal side of it. Nobody's looking inside the house, what's taking place. And one last question I want to leave you with is, and this is more pointed to the people who supported that outcome, the people who, for whatever reason, tried to excuse the bad behaviors and the mistakes that were made during the election. What are you thinking? What is your motivation to defend something that's just plain wrong? what's your stake in it? And to support people who obviously, like I'll throw a name out there. Take a Stacey Abrams out of Georgia, big proponent of ID of removing the need to identify the people who vote. What do you view people like this? Um, how do you view them? How do you see them? Because I'm confused. I need help to better understand. Um, in conversations about topics such as this, which are deeper than the color of one's skin, and this is even deeper than what political party you ascribe to. This is nuts and bolts. And in response to that, I've been called names. I've been called a sellout. I've been um, basically deemed a traitor to my race, which I think is comical. Um, but what are you thinking, and how do you respond like that? What's going through your mind? Anyway, help me out. Let me know in the comment section below. Um, I really want to know. So those of you who got value from the content, open to hear me rant occasionally here and there. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to the channel. On that note, YouTube, take care. Peace.